Everyone has that one friend that knows exactly what's going to happen in a movie before it happens. And when you follow Cleveland sports your entire life, we're all that friend. And as I'm laying in bed last night watching that all unfold, the chaos culminate in that ninth inning, that's exactly the text message I got from Zach Meisel. How fitting is this? Well, I think as you follow Cleveland sports enough and you can see this unfolding before you. No Clase. Here comes Cade Smith. Of course, he's going to have an off night. Who's going to drive in the go-ahead run? And go to that former Guardian. No Cleveland player, ex-Cleveland player, has ever had a bad game against Cleveland in their entire career. It's exactly as you would draw it up.
I thought the 2.5-hour rain delay was the cherry on top, and then I was mistaken. I want to do something different. I want to welcome everybody to the Selby's Godcast. That's TJ. I'm Zach. And I actually, because I know what the rest of this episode is going to be and how it's going to sound and what its purpose is going to be, I would like to direct anybody who might be interested to the Patreon show we did over the weekend about Tom Hamilton. And I thought, especially behind the scenes, it was a little kind of impromptu because I had trouble finding a quiet space with Wi-Fi that day and found some conference room I definitely was not supposed to be in Kauffman Stadium. And we didn't know how much time we had, and we just riffed on Tom Hamilton for, what, TJ, a half hour? And I enjoyed, I could talk about that man for a long time. I could listen to his calls over and over again, and it was, if you need something cleansing for the soul after the events of Monday and maybe the events that are on the horizon for the Guardians, I would steer you toward that. I thought it was a fun conversation, a lot of good reflections, and what does everybody always say? The tired line, no matter what year it is, I think everybody could really use this right now.
But what about for us? Who's going to help us through this? Who's going to take our hand? Yeah, I knew you probably weren't supposed to be in that back closet in Kansas City when you saw that piece of paper that said Seth Lugo contract extension on the top that hadn't been signed yet. We probably were on a pretty strong course there for get out of there before they realize you're not supposed to be in there.
All right, what do you want to talk about? How do you want to start this? Who should be fired?
Okay, well, hold on.
Who should be banned?
Hold on. Because I don't know where everyone's at on the knowledge spectrum here. I don't even know where I'm at on the knowledge spectrum as we record this on Tuesday morning. And thank goodness we decided to push back a day this week, almost like we knew it was going to happen. Zach blamed it on his travels, but I think deep down he knew that we were going to be here doing this show. So props to you for being able to predict that. Let us reset for those that are kind of seeing a lot of speculation out there, that have seen some reports that aren't exactly entirely factual, let's say. Let's go through the timeline here. What did the Guardians learn? When did they know it? That led up to the suspension of Emmanuel Clase and this investigation by Major League Baseball into gambling.
Well, they had an inkling a few days ago. The official call from the league office came to Chris Antonetti's phone mid-morning Sunday as he was driving home from Cooperstown, where he was in attendance for Tom Hamilton's induction, along with a lot of the organization. But the Guardians had their suspicions before this. I don't know the genesis of that, but I think you can put two and two together and figure out that Ortiz and Clase are close, and or there were things during the investigation that led them to Clase, right? MLB. So they had an inkling this was coming, but, and I want to stress this part because I had a lot of questions for Guardians brass and asked these and did the digging I needed to do. If you had an inkling, Can you explain Clase pitching twice Saturday and warming up in the ninth inning of a game you're trailing by 3 on Sunday? And the answer Stephen Vogt provided was, we didn't know the if or the when or the how or the why. They didn't know how imminent it was. They didn't know exactly what it would look like. I can't tell you how to feel about that. But this did not drop out of the sky Sunday to a team that had no idea this was even a possibility. Okay? So they learned Sunday officially he'd be placed on non-disciplinary paid leave on Monday. And Clase was told before the announcement, do not show up at the ballpark Monday. So, there are questions of like, did Steven Vogt officially know this was coming and had this guy warming up Sunday in a situation where it was very weird that he was warming up? Don't know. But, I don't want to speculate on what may have happened, who's guilty of what, how this all transpired, because I don't know. And no one's really going to know until MLB wraps up this investigation, and there's no timeline on that. I have a very difficult time putting together a scenario in my head that includes these guys ever pitching in Major League Baseball again. It's pretty explicit what the rules are, and 5 players were suspended a year ago, 4 of them for a year, 1 of them for life, for violations that are like several tiers beneath what Ortiz is definitely being investigated for, and we don't know exactly what Clase is being investigated for, but you can assume that it's part of the same investigation and, they're related in some fashion.
Yeah, we've all seen the videos of 0-0 pitches to start an inning that are clearly in the dirt or look like they could be purposefully sent out of the strike zone.
There is an exponential difference between, hey, I'm sitting on my couch and and this is not me validating this behavior, but hey, I'm sitting on my couch and
There's degrees.
I'm on the injured list and I'm going to bet on my team, or I'm going to bet on another team tonight. And the ball is in my hand and I'm going to predetermine the outcome of what happens here. That's why, so I don't know if you have anything to add to this, but we can talk about how grave of a situation this is for the Guardians, who there's a 26-year-old and a 27-year-old pitcher who were both under team control for really cheap for a long time. And a lot of this stuff is trivial given the gravity of the situation, but they very well could just be gone. And that has implications on the trade deadline. It has implications on your near future, your long future. And does it have implications on anyone's job? I tried digging at that in press conferences yesterday and was told that it's a fair question to ask, but that let's let the investigation play out and then let's ask that.
Sure, I think every organization isn't doing their job if they aren't asking what they could have done better, even if there's nothing you could have done better. I pointed this out on X.com yesterday. Teams devote entire days to this in spring training. There's a whole, I don't know what you would call it, a seminar basically on this very topic. It's posted everywhere. There's no escaping it. They're making it pretty clear that there's no gambling on baseball. I know it's a weird situation where baseball has, in advertising, gotten in bed with sports gambling. I think that is a weird connection to make. Having said that, I don't want to be in the business for removing personal accountability from people that it's outlined clearly in the rules what you can and cannot do, or just cannot do. And even if Major League Baseball is promoting gambling and have segments and entire stations devoted to gambling, it's clearly outlined, and whether or not you agree with the rule or not, that's the rules. And if you don't follow them, the accountability is on you. You are an adult here. You need to be able to separate what you can and cannot do. So I don't buy the well, it sends mixed signals to the players. It doesn't. It's outlined. You
No.
cannot do this.
Yeah.
There's nowhere in the rules does it state, well, if it doesn't really matter to the outcome of the game, you can get away with this or you can do that. And you know what it does, even if it is something that really doesn't impact the game, even if throwing a pitch outside the zone to begin an inning doesn't really impact the wins and losses of it. You're
Hadn't
still
been Clase's case, at least since
But
May 1st.
What I'm saying if you envision what the least impactful scenario is, what you're still doing is creating doubt on everything that takes place on the field of play. Now I can't believe everything that happens, and people have made the jokes that every wild pitch in the dirt is now people are going to be scratching their heads going, did you do that on purpose? But you are opening up a can of worms for people not to be able to trust the outcome of the sport, and that is a problem. That's a problem for the game overall.
It makes it so that, again, like how can you envision a scenario where those two guys walk back in the clubhouse ever again?
Well, that's the thing too for players. We were texting about this. There's been reports, Major League Baseball is going to look at other people within the pitching staff and they're going to investigate.
Can I clarify this? Okay. Major League Baseball went out of its way to tell the Guardians there's no other players or club personnel involved in this. They did not have to do that. They did not do that 4 weeks ago when the Ortiz news came down. The Guardians were hopeful. They weren't aware of anybody else tied to it, but they didn't have an official statement from MLB saying this is it, right? So for the Guardians and MLB to put that out there when this drops says a lot. It says they're pretty confident in where they're at in their investigation, doesn't it? So I know there was a report that there will be more names revealed of Guardians pitchers who are part of this. And I was told by someone very high up, and this is not in the Guardians, this is very high up, that it is completely false. I'm not going to attack someone else's reporting. I don't know how they reported this, why, what information they have. I just know, like, if MLB is like, they are standing behind that statement that they did not have to put out there. And if more names are being revealed, well, it's MLB that's doing the revealing. And why would they say there's nobody else if they're going to reveal more names, right? So, you can think what you want and time will tell. And this isn't me reporting versus someone else reporting. This is the league and the team stating this is what's happening. I think a report like that, you better be 100% accurate, because what you've just done is now you've got players in a clubhouse looking around being like, who can I trust? More pitchers are supposedly being revealed? Well, yeah. Like, what about this dude on the mound tonight? Like, can I trust him? Like,
well, and that's fair, but let's put the blame where it goes. It's on the people that put you in that situation. That's why I want to get back to your original point about, would you welcome players back into the clubhouse? Now, if we go through this investigation and somehow they're absolved and we learn that this is not this deep-seated thing that we all saw and this was some coincidence, and that's why I have so many thoughts, and I have so many personal thoughts about the players involved here that I've been pulling back the reins on, because I want to let the due diligence play out here. It's fair to let them be innocent until proven guilty. Is there a lot of evidence out there that suggests to the contrary of them being innocent? Sure, but I'm going to let this process play out, because I don't know all the details, and I feel like I'm going to look silly even on the smallest of details. I'll feel bad about that. So I'm going to try to let this play out, but I'm going to speak in general. When you do something like this, not only does it impact you, not only does it impact your team, potentially in wins and losses, or in the case of the Guardians where Clase is not going to care about their trade position, but it does. It impacts the organization. but it also impacts the guys that you consider your friends and your teammates, because now everybody is going to look with some suspicion at everything that a teammate does. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel? Maybe you don't care, and maybe that speaks volumes about the type of person you are. But I know for me personally, God, if I feel like I'm implicating other people that are innocent, that are supposed to be my friends, I'd feel awful about that. And it's something that, regardless of somebody reporting something, or it's not on the reporter that made the report that puts the blame or points the blame at the people in the clubhouse. It's the people that have gotten them in this position by possibly doing what is alleged here between Clase and Ortiz. That's where the blame would fall, not on anybody making the reporting. And it's just another tentacle of this situation, because even if there wasn't a report, Zach, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, and even with what you said about Major League Baseball, doesn't expect anybody else to be involved in this. I'm still thinking, well, who else could? What else could be potentially involved? I'm a human being. I'm trying to follow the bouncing ball here. I'm looking for connections here. It's what we do, fair or not. And it's on the players that put them in that position. And it's another reason why not only are you subtracting from our potential wins and losses, but now you have people looking at me, dude. And I don't appreciate that. This is a career I've worked hard for, and to be in this position, and because I throw one to the backstop, now everyone's going to assume that I'm doing something nefarious. I'd be pretty pissed about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what Clase's involvement is or what he's being alleged to have done. I've seen people go back and say, that pitch to Kerry Carpenter, or those pitches to Judge and Stanton, and like,
but that's what you do. That's what you do to yourself.
I can't. How am I supposed to argue against people doing that? Like, I can't, right? Like, once you lose a sliver of trust, it's gone, and there's no getting that back. We were talking about culpability, and you're talking about how they get the training and it's plastered everywhere, and that's fine. You know how a 20-something-year-old athlete's brain works, though, right? Like, these guys aren't sitting there in spring training at their lockers while some MLB official's up there talking about parlays. They're not like scribbling down notes in maybe Steven Kwan is, in their journal to read later. So they, like, this is sad, and it's like there is a laminated poster on a bulletin board in every single clubhouse when you walk in that shows the rules. Do you think that, like, every player stops when they walk in every day and is like, oh yeah, let me reread. Do I have this memorized yet?
Yeah.
This is the unfortunate reality, is that the best teacher is this. If someone like Emmanuel Clase, who everybody knows, is banned for life, and who knows what will happen, but let's say that happens, that's going to be a good teacher. That might be what gets that fringe major leaguer to put down the phone and not place that bet, right?
Especially
you're talking about
if it's
someone
something
who has financial security, this dude, I don't know what he's got. He had the PED suspension. I don't know how that would play into the mind of voters in the future. He was on a Hall of Fame track. I mean, I don't know that there's a more accomplished reliever through the age of 27, aside from Mariano Rivera, than Emmanuel Clase. And now I'm supposed to think that he decided, I'm just going to throw all that away.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. I mean, the MLB officials who's going around to team camps next spring, there you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to say much else, but don't be this guy.
It won't be a laminated picture of the rules. It'll be a laminated picture of Emmanuel Clase, and that's the rule. But they do stress it. I mean, I want to make this clear. This is not gets brushed off. Hey, we just got to do this training here for this date. This is one of the things that Major League Baseball makes clear and outlines. So I don't want to be in the business of looking for excuses. Having said that, I think there is going to be another step forward for teams to figure out what is going to be the deterrent, what is going to be and maybe it is just that laminated picture of Emmanuel Clase and saying, look, this could happen to you. And even if what is being alleged is all that we ever find out, and that he was just throwing away pitches at the beginning of an at-bat that, again, really do not dictate the wins and losses of the game. And if that guy could lose his career over that, you better be sure that you ain't doing nothing like this, because this is bad for everybody. This is bad for the sport because no one feels like they can trust it. This potentially could be lost revenue. It's a lost career for you. It's organizations not wanting to ever give you a chance ever again. I mean, it's pretty clearly outlined here. Even if, again, this is a weird situation where, as the game is unfolding last night, there's a big ad for gambling in the back of behind home plate.
Their lineup was presented by Bet365 every day.
Right. But as much as I can say, I think that's weird, and I wish that wasn't a huge part of the game, it is a huge part of the game. And I'm not gonna be ignorant to what the world is. I mean, it's all over football. It's not like this is a baseball exclusive thing. It's all over basketball. It's all over every single sport. And the difference, I think, and probably because we're seeing more players, yes, there are probably more opportunities just because sports gambling has exploded the way that it has. But I also think because technology has improved in such a way that 10, 15 years ago, you could probably get away with something like this. Nobody ever finds out. No one
100%.
No one ever looks into this because everything is connected. Everyone's placing bets on apps. There's a paper trail for everything. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. Maybe because there's more of it, but I think because there's more of an ability to track this sort of thing compared to 10, 15 years ago. The technology plays a huge factor in that.
There's some ugly cases in the NBA going on right now too. Like this is not just baseball. Yeah, I don't know. That was one of the darkest days I've ever experienced covering this team. I mean, it from start to finish. Shout out loyal listener Tim Smith, who I think had a day. And shout out to everybody who was asking us for an episode, needing some therapy. I hope you can find it. I don't know how well we can provide it, but yeah, I mean, this has ramifications, right? Like this is, unfortunately, the timing of it too. I mean, that's the other part we haven't touched on.
Couldn't be worse. So
they had been fielding interest from a lot of teams for a few weeks. And I talked to some people, and my sense, and you have to wade through you have to use your BS detector at this time of year. My sense was that I don't think they would have traded Clase. This is absolutely getting aggregated.
You're so wrong.
I wouldn't rule it out.
You're so wrong. I think he was getting dealt.
I don't see. I thought so, and then after some conversations I had yesterday, I don't think he was. I do. I've said all along, consistently. I've written. I think I've said it here that I thought they were largely going to stand pat. At no point did I think that they were going to do actual buying. I actually think Randall Grichuk would have made a lot of sense for them. Instead, he went to the other dugout over the weekend, and that team
that just added to it.
The Royals are
the AL Central's having a party while the Guardians can't do shit. I mean, that's add to the pile of crap.
We'll get to that, but I thought they'd largely stand pat. I don't think Santana has any trade value whatsoever. Lane Thomas and Paul Sewald, I don't think can be dealt because those dudes are out till September. Bieber is the interesting one, and we can talk more about this again later on too. I feel pretty confident he's going to get moved, and I think I felt that before the Clase thing too. But point is, that's more the market and now it's their lack of a need for him basically. But I've said all along I thought Clase would be dealt this winter, and I think I'm sticking with that. I will say their message to other teams was, we don't need to trade, and of course this is their message, we don't need to trade Clase, we don't need to trade Cade Smith. These guys have tons of control, and it's cheap, and we're hanging around in the race. We don't need to do this right now. Now, when you get to Thursday morning, and teams get desperate, because if you look, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Tigers, the Mets, the Phillies, the Brewers, the Cubs, the Dodgers, these teams all want bullpen help, right? And so that's quite the bidding war. Clase would have been the best prize on the trade market. And, when it actually comes down to it and you're faced with a decision and a deadline, maybe they would have struck a deal. But they were telling teams that they weren't too motivated to do that. And then when they got inkling that this was coming, they pulled him off completely. They did not want to trade him. Then this comes down, and then they look like the biggest assholes in world history, and no team will deal with them ever again. So they pulled him, basically, or they told teams, like, he is completely off limits. Now he's on paid leave. He is ineligible to be traded. So you either had, like, a Hall of Fame tracking closer on cheap control for a few years, or you had a pretty good haul in a trade, and now you have none of the above. Like, that's crippling, man.
Yeah, regardless of whether they were going to trade him or not, and I can disagree with you. Yours is based on, actual conversations and sources, and
yours is based on vibes.
You just have to trust me. Just my source, trust me, bro. But that was their best trade chip. Whether it was the off season, whether it was
you sure
in
about
season, I think it was their best
sure
trade
about
chip.
that?
Yeah, I think it was their best trade chip. I know you're
the left fielder,
you're gonna say Kwan, and I think he's up there too. But in terms of guys that I feel like could move, could get something back for now and later, and still keep you in the race, I don't think you're going to accomplish that with Kwan. You could still accomplish that with Clase. And here's where things get really.
But they're
where
hoping the answer is
punch.
Kwan. I'll say that.
Okay.
They're setting a price that suggests the answer to your question is Kwan.
I get that. But here's where it's a double gut punch. I still saw a scenario where he wasn't here, Clase wasn't here for the rest of this year, and this still was going to be a fun year, and you were still going to get back pieces. And so now you're living in the reality where you don't have Clase, which, like, I was already mentally preparing myself for that, and I can get past that. It's that not only are you keeping him, you might not see him ever again, based on what we find out. And God, I cannot wait to get more information, because I'm sitting on so many takes that I just want to explode, and I'm trying to exercise some restraint here until we find out more information. But not only do you not have Clase, you don't have the trade chip. You don't have an ability to make yourself better and make it about 25 and 26. It is beyond frustrating.
There have been years, remember 2015 when they kind of stunk in the first half and they got rid of Brandon Moss and David Murphy and they dumped Swisher and Bourne. Then they played better down the stretch. And they went 81 and 80 and whatever. But there is something redeeming, and this isn't to like absolve them for a disappointing season, but there's something redeeming about August and September baseball when you're just watching kids with like no pressure go out and play and prove to you whether they belong in your future plans or not. And there's a world where that was Chase DeLauder and Juan Brito and Travis Bazzana this year. And
man, were we robbed.
Don't think you're going to see any of them.
We were robbed of all joy.
Maybe DeLauder and Brito in September, but it'll
be so late that it's tough to even read anything into that.
Or you trade Clase and it's like, okay, well, they traded him for a kid at AA and a kid at AAA and like a mid-rotation starter in the majors. And like, this is fun to track, right? And like, so that's out. Or like, I've really enjoyed watching Slade Ciccone. We've talked about him plenty. I've enjoyed watching Gavin Williams and the progress he's made throughout the year where like maybe he can actually be that ace next season. I'm waiting for Tanner Bybee to just figure it out, hit the gas, and go full speed ahead. But it's impossible for me to think about this rotation and the future of it and the youth and the team control without also thinking, man, and they also had Luis Ortiz, and now he's not part of it.
There's just something constantly dragging you down. It's like you're wearing muddy clothes that no matter how good you go, like I'm still just being dragged down.
It is truly like somebody stepped on something or pissed off the baseball gods, or like the front office has had the anti-Midas touch for the last 8 months. I mean, it's insane. And so that's what stinks for the fans is that this happens, cements you as sellers. It cements you as sellers, but it's not even fun selling. Like it's not. There isn't going to be a wave of prospects getting promoted on August 1st that you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see the lineup.
Or an influx of external talent, most likely.
Guess what? You're going to see more Nolan Jones. You're going to see more Jonathan Rodriguez. So, it's like Kevin on The Office being spoon-fed broccoli. Like nobody wants to see this.
This is after he's dropped the chili all over the carpet, which was yesterday.
Yeah. So I just, yeah, it stinks for fans. Like, I wish I had something different to tell you. But this is where you're at. And now the question becomes, the next few days, like, these are going to be brutal too. Like, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's not guaranteed that they're going to trade Bieber and Kwan, but they are getting the phone's ringing off the hook for Kwan, and well, for both. Bieber, in large part because the starting pitching market is so weak, and it's not going to take a ton to get him because he's made 4 starts in the last 24 months. But teams want Kwan, man. Padres, Phillies. Could probably throw the Dodgers in there. Like, you're gonna have to make a decision. Like, do you just completely rip the Band-Aid off? And what does it do for your timeline? What does it mean for Jose Ramirez? Like, there's a lot of questions here.
But the thing is, none of that's going to change even if you hold on to Kwan. And that's where this Clase news just, again, drags you down. There was this feeling still prior to the opener against the Rockies, which, again, you could not follow up a day like that with a worse punch to your gut than losing to the Rockies with Tyler Freeman driving in the runs and your new closer blowing it. I mean, just trifecta of crap. You could still paint a rosier picture prior to the opener if you could have traded a Clase, or even if you just kept him and you added to the roster. You could have still painted a rosier picture. They're still within the striking distance of the wild card. They had played so much better. The Tigers had been in a tailspin here recently. But when you put yourself in a position you lose 10 games in a row, you have to waste one of your best stretches just to dig you out of the hole. And then you have to hope that other teams continue their faltering ahead of you. There's a lot here to ask. And that's why trying to overcome a 10-game losing streak when you've already just kind of been a 500 team prior to that, it's very, very difficult. But that news yesterday just further cements that they probably need to do something serious here. They probably need to shift gears here and not just think about the status quo. And I know we've talked about it before. Is there ever a time where people in this front office question their job security? And we've said probably not. Stephen Vogt, does he ever wake up in the morning? I'm sure he actually does, because it's only his second year doing this and doesn't have a lot of a career to fall back on and say, no, I'm really good at this. Anyone in his position would probably question it. And he's been tasked, and not that he's done a perfect job. There's been many managerial choices that we've ripped him for and we've thought are very questionable at best. In terms of Clase, his choice to pitch him, I mean, as a manager, I don't think this is an enviable position, because your job is to play the team that you've been given. You play the team to win the games with the guys that you have. And if the front office has determined, hey, we're comfortable with him pitching, then I'm going to pitch him. If you're telling me he's part of the team, what, am I not going to pitch one of my best relievers because of something that might happen? I think
plus,
that's
if you
tough.
if you don't pitch him, that opens up a lot more.
What are we
going
to do?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
we'll be asking what the hell's happening here, and then you can't make up something
because you
say,
can't,
he's dealing with this or that.
You can't remove him from the roster,
right?
So
without the cause of doing it.
Right. No, I get it.
So, and you wrote about it. Whoever said it in your article that you point to, the 1 ERA he had prior to the blown save. This was not a guy that I question if you were losing games because of him, that he was doing something to lose games. I don't think the performance suggests that.
Let me add that another thought that was out there was, once Ortiz got busted, you'd think that anybody else involved in this same investigation would stop what they're doing, right? Like, there was not a fear that Clase, and I question this because it needs to be questioned, like, given what Ortiz is being investigated for, you're comfortable if you have a suspicion that Clase is involved, you're comfortable putting this guy in the game in a 1-run game in the 9th or 10th? But as it was pointed out to me, it's like, Ortiz got busted. You would hope if Clase is part of this, he would stop, right? He wouldn't still be doing whatever maybe he was doing if there's an active investigation going on.
I know the videos that I had seen of Clase throwing the pitches, there were a lot of them earlier in the year. I think I saw.
But it's
that,
about the gambling activity more so than the pitches.
well, what,
I mean,
what I'm
Ortiz
saying is,
throwing too wide out of the zone is not. No one thought anything about that until a betting integrity firm discovered that there's a crazy amount of bets being placed on that particular pitch.
well, what I was going to say is if you look at the videos, there's a lot that are early, and then I think I saw maybe one in July, and even that one for Clase was the ones where he's throwing a cutter and he yanks it, and it ends up in the opposite batter's box of a right-handed hitter. That to me just looks like he yanked the pitch. That doesn't look like he's a. The one where he spikes it in the dirt, I can buy one here and there. Those look kind of. It's screaming something at you, but
only because of
my
what we
point
know.
was, in those videos they had slowed down of late. So I think any of the ones recently are probably just coincidental. It doesn't make it somehow right. I'm just saying that it does appear to me as I was looking through the videos that they had slowed down, and I didn't see any recently.
So I asked Chris Antonetti and Stephen Vogt, who's to blame? Aside from the pitchers themselves, like, is there any culpability or any responsibility by anybody else? And we've talked about how this is pounded into players' heads, and that's fine. But I do wonder, add a quarter to the jar, another time where I sure would love to know what the owner is thinking. But that guy hasn't been out of his house in 6 years. Is there any responsibility? Does it feel like there's enough accountability in this organization, just period? I mean, I can't think of a worse. I understand that, like, ironically, they lost to the Rockies. They're not the Rockies, right? They're not 28-78. They're not the White Sox. They're not, they're closer to the Black Sox than the White Sox. But
that adds to the frustration for me because you should be better. You're smarter than that.
So do you feel like there has been sufficient, do you feel like people deserve to hear from the owner or deserve to hear maybe some more, are we missing some honest talk from the organization about everything?
Yes, but I will say, I want to be fair here. The same way that I'm trying to exercise restraint on what I actually think about Clase and Ortiz, and when we cross that point, I'm going to, you're going to know exactly how I feel about it. Once I have more information. I think to be fair to the team, I'm going to give them that same leeway that they want more information before. Now, in saying that, whether or not we deserve to hear from the owner, put yourself in the shoes of your organization, the team that you own. Your franchise, your entity is involved in a huge scandal right now. Wouldn't you want to weigh in? Wouldn't you want to have some thoughts? Now, again, maybe they're trying to exercise the same restraint that I am, but there's also a track record here of not exactly going out here and blasting anybody. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here, but I'm also skeptical that I'm going to get what I want.
Everybody's so comfortable. I mean, everybody's been employed for decades, and there's no repercussions. There's no nothing. They don't hire from the outside hardly ever. I mean, it's not just this. It's like the state of affairs that you're in too. Like the fact, before this, we've been criticizing front office moves and that's not even to talk about payroll and ownership and all that. But also every dollar they spend goes up in flames, whether it's being placed on FanDuel or it's being given to Miles Straw or Paul Sewald or whatever. It's that just everything they've touched has just not worked. I don't know. I don't know.
You
I'm
got
not
the Slade
calling for
Ciccone
anyone's
trade, right?
job yet, but I'm just
Slade
wondering.
Ciccone. I love Slade Ciccone.
Yeah, that's true. True. But again, you can't mention the Naylor for Ciccone trade without mentioning Carlos Santana.
I love Slade Ciccone.
He's great. I
love the intensity that man pitches with.
We can table this conversation until maybe the end of the season, but is there fear? Is there a sense of urgency ever? Because this also brings me here's what the front office is grappling with for the next few days. Okay, there are offers for Kwan. Bieber, whatever, like he wasn't going to be here next year anyway. So you trade him, you get a lottery ticket for him, a prospect for him, and you hope they pan out, whatever. The Kwan discussion is real, and it's something they have to determine, and there are a lot of factors here. And it's, what are you putting your fan base through if you trade him, first of all? Which I know they don't, they try to operate without thinking like that, but I think in this case you actually have to entertain it. What is your timeline? And this is what I voiced this over and over. What is the last year that they went into the season feeling like they were legitimate World Series contenders? I actually would. Do you know the answer to this? I would say in the last, in the last like 6 years, the only year where I think that's the case is 2023.
Yeah,
they went into 22. Jose signed that extension, but they were ready to trade him and go into a deep rebuild. And that obviously didn't happen, but they were coming off a 80-win season, and they didn't change anything. Like it was going to be a lot of, Yu Chang was in the opening day lineup. So they got hot in August and September, and, good season. Then you added, and they got Josh Bell and they got Mike Zunino, and those didn't work out, but they put in some effort there. And they went into 23 feeling good about themselves. Didn't work. 76 wins. Tito leaves. They didn't change much. New coaching staff. 24 happens. They feel like they're going to be like 500, give or take a couple wins. And they're great start to finish. So you have to give them credit, because even if what they expected did not pan out and they were way better than they thought, give them credit. Like, bullpen was incredible. I thought the coaching and the preparation were great all season, and they go to the ALCS. Kudos, right? Even if you didn't expect it, kudos. But it's not like they came into this year being like, we're going to win 97 games and we feel great about this and look at how we built on that. And no one had those feelings. So when do you plan to, what are you building toward? Because like every year has just been kind of, and then like maybe we'll get hot, maybe we won't, and then we'll adjust off of that. And so now, like if you trade Kwan, what are you going into next year with? Like, what are you building toward? That's what I just don't know. And if you keep Kwan, well, then you've got Ramirez at 33 with 3 years of control, and Kwan with 2 years of control, and a few good starting pitchers, and Cade Smith, and what else? A few rookies that you didn't give light of day to in 2025. Like, again, like I don't know the path here. And I think this was already a pertinent question before all this happened. And now I think it's thrown into flux. So the front office is sitting there thinking like, let's use the Padres for an example. Do we trade Steven Kwan for Leo DeVry, who's like a top 10 prospect in the sport? And he's 18 years old. 18-year-old shortstop in A-ball. 1, do you trust you can develop him and get the most out of him? 2, does that set your timeline back? Are you then officially in a rebuild? What does this look like here? Your offense has 2 competent hitters in it. 3, I guess, Kyle Manzardo. If you take Kwan out of the equation, what does this look like next year? Like, do you
even
trust
is a
Lauder
rebuild
to be healthy? Like, I have so many questions because they never build toward anything. What is the plan? What has the plan been, and what is it moving forward? Like, I think this complicates everything, and I don't envy them, but they also, a lot of this has been self-inflicted along the way.
I mean, what is a rebuild? You don't, all of your short-term pieces are not even healthy enough or haven't played well enough to get you anything, even if it's just so like in the case of Bieber, I think you use that as hey, there's this guy in this organization that we didn't get in the draft, or somebody that we have been keeping our eye on for the last couple of years. Probably doesn't profile as a top star, but you know what? We'd love to get our hands on that guy. And then it'd be nice if you had several guys that you could do that with, whether it would be Santana, would it be Lane Thomas, or any of your relievers that you want to move, but none of them are playing well enough. And in the case of a rebuild, you would need to have some pieces that you could sell off to maybe jumpstart this, but I don't even think that's the case here. I don't even know what the term is for this. Like, it'd be a soft reset. But I mean, you're not selling anything of any real value. Like, you're still maintaining. Like, what is the rebuild? rebuild to what? You already are there. It's just you maybe are sending one more piece away and replacing him in the lineup with some other guy that is unproven. I don't know. But even in saying that, I was completely against the Kwan trade a couple of days ago. You know how I felt about the reliever trades, but the Kwan trade didn't make sense to me. Now I've shifted gears. I'm not saying trade him just to trade him, but
yeah,
I absolutely am listening to every single offer with
which they're doing
anticipation.
Can I ask you this? I always try to avoid this type of thinking, and I know the front office definitely avoids this type of thinking. Can you just give the dude $100 million? For an organizational health standpoint, doesn't it make a lot of sense to just be like, yo, bro, I know we don't normally do this midseason, but like, we got to come to an agreement here. Like, the fans need it. Organization needs it. If we want people to care about this team, we need it. And you can be the, 1B to Jose's 1A face of the franchise moving forward at a time when this franchise is in a little bit of a rocky situation. Like, I don't know. If you ever are going to get uncomfortable, and I was talking to someone prominent in another organization recently. I say prominent not to pump myself up, but to, I guess, try to relay that this is someone whose words I would put a lot of stock in. And they said something along the lines of, the game has gotten so risk averse that which I think initially a little bit of risk aversion was good, especially for small mid-markets, front offices that can't screw up royally or else they'll never get out of it. But it's swung so much in the other direction that teams are so risk averse where you're never going to build a legitimate contender unless you take some risks.
Yeah.
And I just think I certainly can understand the thinking of trading Steven Kwan this week at this point. And the Guardians are telling teams look, we'll listen and we can talk, but again, this is something we can revisit this winter. But I almost wonder if you just everybody needs a win. And I almost wonder if Kwan would say, I understand the situation we're in right now. And if we can meet, if you can give me what I think I'm valued at, I'll listen. This is so unprecedented. I almost think it's almost necessary. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that conversation should be had?
Well,
today?
Yes.
Oh.
You are. You are absolutely crazy. I mean, I like the thought process here, but I just feel like we're devoting time to talk about something that has no possibility of happening, at least in my opinion.
Why? They were so quick to give Andres Jimenez $100 million.
Yes. But, I mean, you're saying to do this today. I just don't see that happening.
It's not like they haven't had... I mean, they've had conversations for 2 years. It's not like you'd have to start from scratch. It's also David Blitzer's problem more than it's Paul Dolan's problem.
Here's probably where I'm going to get the most frustrated. You're talking about risk aversion. I talked about that several weeks ago, that when you build your teams to always win 54% of your games, it keeps your job security very, very in place, because you're not taking the big swings, and it keeps you there, and you're good enough on occasion that you're not going to get fired. I won't apologize, even though we have seen some that are a little frustrated with how much we've complained and whined about stuff. That's fine. That's your prerogative. If you don't want to hear that, I can't control that. I'm only going to talk about how I feel.
Go listen to the Tom Hamilton Patreon episode.
I feel like we do a pretty good job of giving credit where it's due. But if you don't like that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not going to come on here and do a show that I don't want to do to appease everybody else.
And also, don't confuse it for us saying that these guys have easy jobs. I don't envy it. It's a very difficult, to use a phrase they love, needle to thread to have a sustainable contender here. But
well, here's what I'm going to get at.
Facts are also facts.
Here's what I'm going to get at. I'm not going to apologize for wanting the team that has proven that they can get close for wanting them to push forward and actually win one. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to see a championship, not only just for little me that grew up loving Cleveland, but also for everybody, as we've talked about in past shows, that this just means so much to them. And I want my parents to be able to see a championship. People, everyone, our listeners, their parents, your grandparents, everybody that's just been waiting for this championship. I'm not going to apologize for holding them accountable and wanting them to be a little bit better than where they're at. But having said all of that, what is going to make me frustrated is what you're talking about with Steven Kwan just today, giving him a contract extension. And that would be great for everybody. There's risk there because I don't know if he's going to stay healthy. It's just in the case of Andres Gimenez, looked like even if he wasn't going to be a great player, an all-star player, looked like a guy who was going to just provide win after win after win in terms of wins above replacement. So that felt like a safer thing than some extensions, but you still were dealing with risk there because you don't know how someone's going to fall off. That there's risk to handing out a long-term extension. And there's also risk to trading Steven Kwan. What's the backlash going to be? Now, I could also argue that, like, you're already down here. Like, what's moving it just one more inch down here? Who cares? We're already in crap territory.
But
who cares if you move it down?
This is an organization that has resisted the urge to go into a deep rebuild because they're afraid they would lose the fans.
You're scratching it. You're almost there. You're scratching it. There's risk on either side of this equation. So what does the risk-averse organization do? Neither. We're going to hold on to Steven Kwan, and we're just going to let this play out a little bit more until we get to the point of no return that we're absolutely going to have to trade him because we're not going to lock him up. And everything you could have gotten today for the trade, somebody's top prospect, a number of top 10 prospects, guys that are our top 100 prospects. No. You could still get something for him like next year.
These teams don't want Kwan for what he can do in August. They want Kwan for October. And there is a huge difference between having Kwan for 2 Octobers versus 3 Octobers.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying today you're going to get more for him.
Okay,
You're going to be able to talk teams into more than if you waited a year.
Correct.
And what's going to happen is, and I don't blame them for not trading Lindor like way out in front. I blame them for not doing enough to surround Lindor before he left. But I get the trading him with 1 year left. You're going to put yourself in a similar situation where now you're going to be hoping to get something to the level of the Andres Gimenez return for Steven Kwan because that's the safer thing to do. I would applaud them if they did either of the risky things. Trade him, that's risky, or lock him up. That's also risky. What's going to drive me insane is that they're not going to do either thing. They're just going to let it play out a little bit more, and then you're going to lose some value here and still not lock him up. And I'm going to, at the end of the day, go, we're doing the safe thing again. And I just want this organization to get on the ledge every once in a while and do something not risky in terms of what is risky for them, handing out some contract that's like $30 million. Oh, that's really risky. I mean, actually taking some risks, and I will give them credit for taking risks, even if it's a big swing and it doesn't pan out. I give them some credit for actually wanting to do some things that are different than other organizations.
Yeah, I think part of the difference here is that Kwan is not headed for a Lindor-type contract, and whereas I think it helped to trade Lindor to the Mets because the Mets sat there thinking, well, maybe we can give him $341 million and he'll stay here. And then it's a great trade for us because we're trading for 11 years of Francisco Lindor, right? With Kwan, that's going to be part of the built-in value too, is not only would you get 2.5 years if you trade for him this week, but if he goes to the Dodgers or the Phillies, aren't those teams going to be like, yeah, it's 2.5 years, but also like we could give this guy $120 million or whatever it would take. It's not like it's going to be $400 million. This isn't Kyle Tucker where the Cubs trade for him, but because he could get $400 million this winter, he definitely isn't re-signing, and he's going to hit free agency and have a bidding war, right? So I think that's part of it too, is like other teams would look at this like, yeah, he's a good player. Like he's not Jose Ramirez, but like he's a really good player, versatile player or well-rounded player. And it's control, and it's not someone who's going to break the bank in the end. Other teams are like, yeah, if we give this guy $120 million and his hamstrings tear after that, like it's not going to be financially crippling. Whereas if you're the Guardians, it probably does feel that way. But I would say, so what? Honestly, like you have to build around something, and this isn't the same rant of like surround Jose with talent and go, but this is like I understand you're like, you're already here with the news of the week and everyone's down and whatever, and like it'd take you down. Like, how much further down can you go? That might be true for the fan base, but what about the clubhouse? What about the players? Tanner Bybee signed a 5-year extension, and if they trade Kwan, is he going to be like, what have I got? Like, what have I agreed to here? Like, what are we doing now? Jose Ramirez, like I when he signed his extension, they were coming off a down year, and it wasn't expected to be a great year in 22. So it's not like he understood what he was getting into. But after what they accomplished last year, like if you trade Kwan and if you trade him for an 18-year-old and then some, like, what are you thinking if you're him? I just, there's a lot to consider here. It's a lot to work through. A short period of time you're allotted to work through it, given when this news dropped. I don't know. I think a necessary step in this is to be honest with Kwan. And he's honestly, I mean, he's a union rep. He's a really smart dude. And they've had conversations in the past. I think you call him into the office and you talk through this all. Feel him out. See where he's at. He might agree with you. He might be like, look, I'm with you. I like it here, and we kind of need this. Like, let's make this happen.
I like it. I like the idea. Do I think there's any possibility of that happening? No. I'd be completely knocked on my ass.
So negative, man. We need positivity now more than ever.
I'd be just as surprised as waking up to find out your closer was allegedly betting on pitches that he was throwing and might be done for his entire career. I'd be knocked on my butt, but that would be a happy. I'd collect myself off my butt much happier than I did the Clase news. Just pick a lane. That's my point. Pick a lane. Do that thing that you're talking about, or get out there on that ledge. And yeah, you're right. You'd have some very angry people within that clubhouse.
I mean, just imagine if they trade Kwan, like all we're going to hear about all summer is Joe Flacco versus Shedeur Sanders versus Kenny Pickett. Oh, wait. Is it possible that on my drive into the ballpark yesterday, I turned on a radio show's first 2 segments and they were talking Kenny Pickett and they mentioned the name Clase once going to break. And it was like, if we have time today. I will tell you a little behind the scenes. There was a request came in. Hopefully I'm allowed to share this. A request came in to the New York Times and then came to me asking if I could go on Good Morning America to talk about this. It ended up not happening, and they might need it in the future. They might not. But I just laughed because I was like, the Guardians, this story can get on Good Morning America, but cannot get on local radio. I almost wanted to reply and be like, wait, isn't Good Morning America talking about Kenny Pickett being day-to-day?
Reminds me, this is totally irrelevant, but this is the way my brain went. When we were having conversations about how low Jose was hitting in the lineup, remember that year? I think it was 2017. He was hitting 5th still, and everyone wanted him up, like 3, 2, somewhere in that range. And we did shows about it. It was a very hot topic on Twitter. Where Jose was hitting in the Guardians or the Indians lineup. You got to the All-Star game, Jose hit higher in the All-Star game lineup than he did his actual lineup. That has nothing to do with the story you just told, but it just reminded me of, like, nationally, appreciate Jose wanted to hit higher in Cleveland.
He can hit ahead of Ohtani and Judge, but not Ahmed Rosario.
Boy, did you pick a stupid week to move. What kind of moron are you?
This is bad.
All I'm envisioning is, I mean, and you being a Friends guy with them with the couch on the stairs, like I'm just imagining as you're getting the keys, you start moving stuff, and you're putting the bed up the stairs, which is always it's always a chore, right? You know it's gonna be one. And I'm just envisioning like you and your wife moving it up the stairs, and then you get a text and you just let go of the bed, and then she's just stuck against the wall like, hey, honey, help. I can't. Steven Kwan just got dealt.
It's been hilarious because, it's been a busy few weeks. And my wife's done all the packing. And I think this is a very clutch
Well,
time for me.
That's smart.
To
That's
mention that
smart on your
how
part.
appreciative and grateful I am that she has really handled a lot of this. Hopefully, she can hear me right now. But you're totally right. I've punted and punted and punted all of my packing duties, and then Emmanuel Clase happens, and then who knows what else will happen. And yeah, I'm gonna start the moving process as the movers get to the house, I think.
Hold on, just throwing this in the box. Take this. They're taking stuff off the walls. So let's bottle this all up and come back when they have more information for us, and then really explode.
Sorry, everyone.